So one thing that we can really say here about The Acolyte is that it is the very first Star Wars production under Disney's wing that got ratioed across the board, across all forms of social media, no matter where you go, no matter what TV spot you look at or teaser trailer/trailer, it is heavily disliked, and for numerous reasons, and rightfully so, by the way, by fans of George Lucas's Star Wars, and even by non-fans, surprisingly. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. You can also follow me at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. So there's been a lot of drama happening behind the scenes over at Lucasfilm and Disney, and everything going on between those like Kathleen Kennedy, Leslye Headland, the showrunner of the show, as well as Bob Iger, alright, who has been endlessly creating a lot of issues over at the Walt Disney Company for numerous reasons, by the way. We'll tap more into that later on in the week. But what's interesting about Kathleen Kennedy, amid all of the issues such as The Acolyte Season 2 getting axed, and all of the different projects that Leslye Headland was fired and removed from for both Star Wars and Marvel combined, and how that's creating a lot of tension between not just the board of directors over at Disney, but also Kathleen Kennedy in the mix. Now, this is where things begin to get very interesting about what Kathleen Kennedy had to say about the current status of Star Wars after everything that happened with The Acolyte getting cancelled, and as well as everything else happening with the direction of Star Wars in general, and how so many fans are just calling it out for what it really is, agenda-driven nonsense. Now, on top of everything here, with both Marvel Studios and Lucasfilm now considered the two most failed divisions at the Walt Disney Company, one significant development now, of course, also has much to do with Lucasfilm's Kathleen Kennedy and what she had to deliver to the public after The Acolyte was cancelled behind the scenes by the Disney heads after the strongest backlash that they have never seen before in Star Wars. Now, Kennedy went on to deliver the following. I have been with Lucasfilm for well over 10 years now as president, and I think the one challenge that we have been facing, especially in the Star Wars community, is how we can properly represent women without really facing such loud noise from a small minority. These are the types of conversations that we have been having for months now about what direction we want to go for the Star Wars brand moving forward. The largest misconception that we are facing currently for our films and shows is that Lucasfilm holds some form of an agenda to drive away long and loyal fans, which is absolutely not true, and a narrative created by those that remain opposed to powerful female figures in the galaxy far, far away. We are working to correct what type of response, and with The Acolyte, this is the same type of response that we have recognized that is just flat out irresponsible, coming from supposed fans of this franchise that are only creating a damaging effect on the brand in the process. Listen, we don't shelve projects here at Lucasfilm. We like to use the word back burner because we can just kind of pause our projects and newer seasons that just did not work out for us in the end and aren't working currently for our creative team and where Bob wants us to go. I will admit, I don't agree with everything that Bob has decided for where Star Wars is going with some of our projects, which at times can be a very frustrating process. But for fans to claim that Lucasfilm holds an agenda for enabling powerful women in a series like The Acolyte, for example, is just completely offensive to our creative team, like Leslye, who really put this project together and wanted to do a season 2. I really can't and don't want to go too much into our differences with another season and what's been going on with that, but our goal right now for Star Wars that we felt was very important to evolve the brand was by focusing on how we could make so many connections to the sequels, and especially Rian's The Last Jedi film, which really, of course, Leslye dedicated most of her time to making that possible. The Acolyte is all about representing endless communities that have not been properly acknowledged by George in the past films that he put out over the decades, which we are hoping will get great reception to what we are doing with all future films and television programs for Disney+. Now guys, let me just say one thing about Kathleen Kennedy, what she's really spewing here again. She's basically saying the same exact copy and paste nonsense. There is an agenda, but there's no agenda here at Lucasfilm. Alright? basically it's I'm right, you're wrong type of scenario. And this is typical Kathleen Kennedy, corporate response, garbage that really never goes anywhere. It never really kind of builds up to anything, constructive for anybody that's concerned about where Star Wars is heading. And to be honest, guys, as far as I'm concerned, Star Wars is beyond repair. And even if they got rid of DEI and all of the agenda-driven nonsense, it would take years upon years to reverse the damage. It would really take something so ridiculous to the point of making the sequel trilogy no longer canon and starting from scratch and really calling it a day. And even then, I think it would still take a lot of loopholes to kind of correct everything in the process. People are just very much apathetic now about Star Wars. They're very much done with the overall franchise, with a couple of exceptions thrown in there. But what's really interesting about this further is that she goes on to continue, there is no agenda here at Lucasfilm. By us focusing on different communities, especially the LGBTQ community, this has nothing to do with any kind of a message that we are trying to etch into the brand, and I think if you call yourself a fan, you should understand that what it means to represent diversity, equity, and inclusion in the many films in this industry, especially for Star Wars. This is our #1 priority right now, to obtain a more global audience, to really expand the number of people that we can reach, to create new fans for a new era of Star Wars that does not need to rely on George's outlook of the story. So again, what she's saying is that we want to throw George Lucas into the mud. We want to put him to the wayside and forget the past. And look, that was a direct message, by the way, by Rian Johnson and Kathleen Kennedy in The Last Jedi, right? All about forgetting the past, all Lucasfilm really cares about at this point in time, and it couldn't be any more clear with the Acolyte series, by the way, is that they want to essentially rewrite history. And basically that's what Leslye confirmed, is that she already wants to create new meaning to balance of the Force, a core and integral element into the Star Wars franchise that's going to get reframed in the Acolyte. So look, this backlash is so large, it's so strong that Bob Iger really was forced into the situation of canceling season 2 behind the scenes. That's exactly why Kathleen Kennedy is acting this way. That's exactly why she's acting so frustrated with how fans are just very much, and rightfully so, keeping it up by calling out the Acolyte for what it is, and also calling out Lucasfilm for what they really are and what they're really all about when it comes to Star Wars. At this point, it's all about making a profit and just pushing an agenda and slapping the Star Wars label on top of it. That's really what it kind of boils down to. I know that there's some people out there that are still clinging to hope, but I think it's about time for people to let go once the Acolyte debuts on June 4th. So again, like I say, everything related to Kathleen Kennedy and what she has to say about the fans and how they are wrong and she is right, and how there's no agenda at Lucasfilm when in reality there is. Typical corporate response and very robotic in nature. So overall, guys, I would love to hear what you all have to say about this below in the comments. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys later.